One of the clearest signs that someone wants you gone is the sudden withdrawal of affection. Think about it. Affection is not just about hugs, kisses, or tender words. It's about the everyday gestures that let you know you matter. It's the way someone lights up when you walk into the room, the way they reach for your hand without thinking, or the way they check in just to see how your day has been. Affection, in its truest sense, is the language of presence. It says, I see you, I value you, I want to be here with you. When bad people decide they no longer want you in their lives, that language disappears almost overnight. The warmth turns into coldness. Where there used to be good morning messages, now there's silence. Where there used to be listening ears, now there's disinterest. Suddenly, the small rituals that made you feel loved vanish, and you're left asking yourself, what changed? Did I do something wrong? This withdrawal is intentional. By pulling away their affection, they create emotional distance that makes the relationship feel heavy and one-sided. It's not that they no longer can show affection, it's that they've chosen not to. And here's the painful part. The withdrawal doesn't usually come with an explanation. You're not given clarity or closure. Instead, you're left in confusion, trying to decode the silence and wondering what you could have done differently. And this is where it becomes dangerous, because in the absence of affection, many of us start bargaining with ourselves. We think, if I try harder, if I give more, if I make myself smaller, maybe they'll love me again. But the truth is, love that is genuine doesn't vanish like that. Real affection doesn't disappear as a form of punishment. Real affection doesn't have conditions. When someone withdraws affection suddenly, it is less about your worth and more about their choice, their signal, eyeing, whether directly or indirectly, that they no longer want to invest in the relationship. And that is not a reflection of your value. It is a reflection of their inability to show up with honesty and integrity. So when you notice this shift, I want you to hear this clearly. You are not unlovable because someone stopped loving you well. Their withdrawal is not proof that you are too much or not enough. It is proof that they are unwilling or unable to keep giving what a healthy connection requires. And while it hurts deeply, sometimes that sudden absence is the very clarity you need to step back and ask yourself, do I really want to fight for someone who has already left me in spirit? Another way bad people show they want you gone is by creating unnecessary conflicts. At first, it can feel confusing. Small disagreements that could be solved with a simple conversation suddenly become big battles. Things that never used to matter are now treated like deal breakers. You might notice that arguments seem to come out of nowhere, often about trivial or meaningless issues. This tactic isn't about resolving problems, it's about manufacturing tension. When someone wants to push you away, they don't always know how to end the relationship honestly, so instead they start planting chaos. They pick fights over dirty dishes, over the tone of your voice, over a missed call, or even something as simple as how you folded the laundry. The actual issue doesn't matter. It's the conflict itself that serves their agenda. Why do they do this? Because conflict creates exhaustion. If they can drain your energy, if they can make you feel like you're constantly walking on eggshells, eventually you'll start questioning yourself. You'll think, hey, maybe I'm the problem. Maybe if I just keep the peace better, things will go back to normal. But that's exactly the trap. They want you to feel like the relationship is unsustainable so that you'll be the one to give up. And here's the painful truth. These conflicts are rarely about the present moment. They're not about the dishes, the call, or the words you used. They are distractions. They are smoke screens. They are ways for the other person to justify their growing distance and eventually their departure. But here's what you must remember. If someone truly cares about you, They don't create conflict just to win. They don't weaponize small things to make you feel like you're failing. In healthy relationships, disagreements are approached with respect and solutions are sought because the connection matters more than the ego. Wasua. And bad people want you gone. They flip this dynamic. The ego takes the wheel and you are left stranded in a cycle of defensiveness and blame. No matter what you do, it never feels good enough, and peace never seems to last. This isn't because you're incapable of harmony, it's because they are intentionally dismantling it. So if you find yourself in a situation where every word becomes an argument, every choice is criticized, and every day feels like another battle, understand this. It's not about you being unworthy of love. It's about them choosing to use conflict as a tool to slowly push you out of their lives. And while it hurts, that realization can become your freedom. Because once you see the pattern clearly, you can stop trying to fix what was never broken in you. You can start asking a better question. Why am I fighting to hold on to someone who is fighting to push me away? One of the most painful ways bad people show they want you gone is by invalidating your feelings. This doesn't happen all at once. It starts subtly. Maybe you share something that hurt you and they brush it off with a laugh. Maybe you express your needs and they tell you you're too needy. Over time, your emotions are no longer treated as real, but as problems. They'll say things like, you're overreacting, you're too sensitive, why can't you just let it go? It's not that big of a deal. These words don't just dismiss your feelings, they minimize your humanity. Because feelings are not weakness, they are signals. They tell us when something matters, when something hurts, and when something is out of alignment. To dismiss those signals is to dismiss the person carrying them. When someone consistently invalidates your emotions, you begin to doubt yourself. You start wondering, am I really too sensitive? Am I making things up? Maybe it is my fault. And little by little, you lose trust in your own heart. That is exactly the point. By invalidating you, they create a dynamic where your truth is always up for debate. And when your truth is always questioned, you become... Emotional distance is one of the most telling signs that someone wants you gone. Unlike open conflict or harsh words, emotional distance is quiet, almost invisible at first, but over time it's suffocating. It's the slow pulling away of intimacy, connection, and presence. You're in the same room, but it feels like you're living in two different worlds. At one point, they might have shared everything with you, their dreams, their fears, their funny little stories from the day. But suddenly, those conversations dry up. They no longer ask how you're doing. They don't share their thoughts. And when you try to connect, their responses feel shallow, distracted, or dismissive. It's not that there's nothing to say. It's that they've chosen not to let you into their inner world anymore. And what's so painful about emotional distance is that it leaves you with questions instead of answers. You start asking yourself, did I do something wrong? Why do I feel so invisible? How can I bring them back to me? You try harder, you reach out more, you give more of yourself, hoping they'll meet you halfway. But the more you lean in, the further they lean back. This isn't just withdrawal, it's a form of erasure. They start treating the relationship as an obligation, not a connection. They're there physically, but emotionally they've already left, and you feel it. The absence is heavy, like a silence that follows you around the house. Here's the thing, real connection requires emotional presence. It requires vulnerability, honesty, and a willingness to invest your heart. When someone decides they no longer want you in their life, they stop investing. They stop showing up in the ways that matter most. It's easier for them to distance themselves emotionally than to have the courage to say, I'm done. But their silence, their avoidance, and their disconnection do not mean you're unworthy of closeness. It doesn't mean you're difficult to love. What it means is that they don't have the capacity or the willingness to keep building the bond. The truth is, emotional distance says more about them than it does about you, because love that is real doesn't vanish without explanation. It doesn't turn cold overnight. It doesn't treat presence as punishment. If someone is emotionally checking out, it's not because you are unlovable, it's because they have chosen to stop showing up. When bad people want you gone, they don't always walk away quietly. Sometimes, instead of simply creating distance, they recruit others into their narrative. They begin planting seeds of doubt in the minds of people around you, family, friends, co-workers, or anyone in your shared circle. Suddenly, you notice subtle shifts. People who once greeted you warmly now seem hesitant. Conversations feel colder, and trust that once felt natural begins to crumble. This tactic is especially cruel because it doesn't just isolate you from one person, it isolates you from an entire support system. It leaves you standing alone, wondering how the story of your life got rewritten without your permission. The person you cared about doesn't just pull away, they reshape how others see you, ensuring that when they walk away, they're not walking alone. They're making sure you're the one left behind, carrying the weight of silence and judgment. The way they do it is often subtle. They don't storm into rooms and scream accusations. Instead, they drop quiet hints. I don't know what's gotten into them lately. You wouldn't believe what I've had to put up with. I just don't feel supported anymore. On the surface, these words sound harmless, but underneath, they're designed to shift perception, to make you look unreliable, selfish, or untrustworthy in the eyes of others. It's not always what they say. It's how they frame the story. They put themselves in the role of the victim so that when they finally push you out, everyone else nods along in agreement. And here's what makes it even harder. Another way bad people show they want you gone is by pulling away from your growth. In the beginning, they may have cheered for you. They celebrated your wins, admired your ambitions, and stood beside you as you reached for more. But as soon as they decide you no longer have a place in their life, that support starts to fade. And in its place comes criticism, silence, or even resentment. Instead of clapping for you, they sit with crossed arms. Instead of saying, I'm proud of you, they find ways to downplay your achievements. If you share good news, they might respond with indifference, or worse, twist it into something negative. Well, don't let it get to your head. Anyone could have done that. It's not really that impressive. This shift is painful because growth is deeply personal. When you're building yourself, stepping into courage, or achieving something meaningful, you naturally want to share it with the people you care about. But when those people stop cheering, it feels like rejection, not only of your progress, but of you. The truth is, when someone withdraws support for your growth, it's rarely about you, it's about them. Your success highlights their stagnation. Your courage magnifies their fear. Your light shines a little too brightly on the places in their life where they've chosen comfort over change. And instead of being inspired by your example, they retreat, dismiss, or even sabotage it. But here's what you must remember. Your growth is not a threat. It is a gift. It is proof that you are alive, evolving, and daring to become more than who you were yesterday. People who truly love you don't shrink away when you rise. They rise with you. They celebrate your wins as if they were their own, because in healthy connection, success is never competition. It's shared joy. When bad people want you gone, they cut off that encouragement. And in doing so, they hope you'll doubt yourself. They hope you'll dim your light so you no longer make them uncomfortable. They hope you'll shrink back into a version of yourself that doesn't challenge them to grow. But please, don't let their silence or criticism convince you to stop. Keep going, keep growing, keep reaching for more. The people who truly belong in your life will never be intimidated by your light. They'll be warmed by it. They'll stand at your side, not in your way. When bad people want you gone, one of the clearest signs is how they begin to shift all responsibility onto you. Suddenly, you are the problem. No matter what happens, whether it's a small disagreement, a miscommunication, or even something entirely out of your control, you become the one at fault. It starts subtly. Maybe they say things like, if you hadn't done that, we wouldn't be in this mess. You always ruin everything. I wouldn't act this way if you didn't make me. Over time, the subtle blame becomes a constant drumbeat. And here's the danger. When you hear it long enough, you start to internalize it. You begin to believe the story they're telling, that if only you were better, calmer, smarter, more patient, less demanding, then everything would be fine. This is exactly what they want, because the more responsibility you take on, the less accountability they have to face. But let's be clear, this is not about your shortcomings. This is about their inability to take ownership of their actions. By making you the scapegoat, they justify their withdrawal. They paint themselves as the victim and you as the villain. That way, when they finally decide to leave, they can walk away guilt-free, telling themselves and anyone else who will listen that it was all your fault. This tactic is especially harmful because it erodes your sense of self. You find yourself apologizing for things you didn't. Do, over-explaining yourself to prove your intentions and bending over backward just to avoid another round of blame. It becomes exhausting, and that's the point. They want you to feel so weighty. When bad people want you gone, they often stop using words altogether. Instead of honest conversations, they turn to silence, and not the peaceful kind. This is silence used as a weapon. It's not about needing space to think or calm down. It's about punishing you, shutting you out, and making you feel small. At first, it might look like they're just busy or distracted. You tell yourself they're tired, stressed, or maybe going through something they don't want to talk about. But as the silence stretches, you realize it's deliberate. They ignore your calls. They leave your messages unread. They sit in the same room but won't look at you. And the longer it lasts, the heavier it feels. Silence can cut deeper than shouting. When someone yells, at least there are words, something to respond to, something to work through, but silence leaves you in limbo. You don't know where you stand. You don't know what you did. You don't know how to fix it. You're left chasing answers from someone who has no intention of giving them. This is what makes silence such a powerful tool for people who want out. It allows them to avoid accountability. They don't have to explain, justify, or face the discomfort of truth. Instead, they let the silence do the talking. And with every unanswered call, every cold shoulder, every heavy pause, the message becomes louder. You don't matter enough for me to respond. Here's the most painful part. Over time, silence begins to change you. You start questioning your worth. You replay every interaction in your head, searching for where you went wrong. You overcompensate, sending more texts, apologizing for things you don't even understand, begging for a crumb of response, and all the while they remain distant, letting you twist in the emptiness. But here's the truth. This silence is not a reflection of your value. It's a reflection of their avoidance. P. People who care about you don't weaponize silence. They don't leave you in the dark. They may ask for space, but they'll tell you why. They may need time, but they'll come back with clarity. Silence in a healthy relationship is never punishment. It's a pause for understanding. When bad people want you gone, though, silence becomes their exit strategy. It allows them to disappear without explanation, without responsibility, and without facing the impact of their choices. And while it hurts deeply, that very silence can also become your clarity, because the absence of words speaks volumes. It tells you exactly where you stand. So if you find yourself being punished with silence, hear me. You are not unworthy of love just because someone refuses to speak it. You deserve relationships where communication is open, where honesty is valued, and where silence is never used as a weapon. Don't chase someone who hides behind quiet walls. Your voice, your truth, and your heart deserve to be met with presence, not punishment. When someone wants you gone, they rarely tell you directly. Instead, they withdraw their affection, create conflicts, invalidate your feelings, pull away emotionally, turn others against you, stop supporting your growth, place blame on you, punish you with silence, and finally, rewrite the story of what you meant to them. Each tactic is designed to wear you down, to make you question your worth, and to leave you believing the lie that you were never enough. But here's the truth. Their behavior is not proof of your inadequacy. It is proof of their inability to love with honesty, courage, and respect. When people want to leave, they will often show you the weakest parts of themselves, their avoidance, their fear, their manipulation, not because of who you are, but because of who they are not. And while it hurts sometimes more than words can express, this kind of ending can also be a gift. Because when someone reveals their true nature, you are given clarity. You are shown who doesn't belong in your future. And you are reminded of the most important truth,